Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here taking a look at the DRF Wednesday race of the day, which comes out in Florence, Kentucky, Turfway Park. Really the racing venue that a lot of people have their eyes trained on Wednesday since that meet started last week. And the future race there, race 8 on their 9-race card this Wednesday, is a 10 furlong allowance optional claiming race. This one drawing a full field of fillies and mares, 12 runners in the main body of the field, a couple of also eligibles, Mike. And it's really become a theme with these Turfway cards over the past few seasons, and it's continued since the meet started this year. A lot of large fields, competitive races, competitive sequences. And if you have some ideas, you typically get paid at Turfway.
Yeah, very, very true. There's a lot going on in this race. As you were just sort of alluding to, a big field. There's not, tons of form to go on, David. I mean, only 2 of the 14 entered in this race have a prior win on an all-weather surface. And then you have to factor in the distance as well, because it's a real question for a lot of these horses.
Yeah, I mean, on the surface of things, it doesn't seem like the strongest first-level allowance race, and it basically is a first-level allowance. I think there's only a couple of horses in for the tag, one in the main body of the field and one on the also-eligible list, so we can treat it that way. But a lot of these horses may be coming out of some tougher races at Kentucky, and Churchill, and Keeneland, so some class droppers. But as you said, the surface is a real question mark for a lot of these fillies and mares. And another big question these have to answer, Mike, is what kind of trips they're going to get, because we'll take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race. And I don't know if you have some ideas, but when I went through this race a couple of times, I had no idea how they were going to run this race.
I felt the same way about it. I mean, I had a really tough time finding any confirmed speed horses in this field. The longer I looked at it, the more I felt like they're probably not going to be going a very fast pace early in this race. So you're right. Trips are going to wind up being very important here.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to make a guess as to who might wind up in front early, it could be the number 8, El Jury, who they're putting blinkers back on. She does have plenty of tactical speed, though she's hardly a need-to-lead type, and really nobody in this race is. And the vast majority of horses in this field are just plotters that want to go towards the back of the pack. They can't all be back there, so it's going to be interesting to see how this race is run through the early stages. If you want to do a deeper dive into the Timeform US Pace Projector and other Timeform US data, you can get free Timeform US PPs for this race, free Formulator PPs, and free Classic PPs. But this being the DRF Wednesday race of the day, just go to that race of the day page at DRF.com. Let's go through this large field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1 Love Song. And pretty big pedigree, Mike, on this Godolphin homebred, a filly that took a few starts to break her maiden, finally did so in an off-the-turf race at Delaware. Since then, they've gotten her back on the turf course, and she's run okay in a series of first-level allowance races. She is one of many in here making her synthetic debut, and there's pedigree for her to handle synth. There's pedigree for her to do a lot of things, but she probably has to step forward a little bit on the best race that she's run previously, and we'll take a look at the stretch run of her race 2 back at Kentucky Downs when she just missed.
Yeah, I think maybe the main takeaway is, considering how well bred she is, she just hasn't turned out to be that good. So we'll see what happens here as they try a new surface. Whether this race that we're showing right here, to me, is a race that gives her a really big chance to win this race. I thought she ran really well in here, and maybe even ran the best race on the day, but she's just going to get tired at the end and get nailed by a couple of closers. But that's a really good performance, David. My problem with her is, I don't really like any of her other races. And that race is surrounding it. First of all, it's at Kentucky Downs, so you always have to worry about that stuff. And the 2 turf races in particular that surround that, the second place finish at Colonial, where I didn't think that she ran that well, and the race at Kentucky Downs, or at Churchill Downs most recently, I think she ran that well that day either, although I didn't love the trip that she got. So I don't know, man. I just don't know how good she is. And it's not like she's going to be a great price in here.
Yeah, I hear you on the Kentucky Downs race, making her competitive here. I don't love some of the company that she's kept in races prior to the last one. Even that Kentucky Downs allowance race, when you look through the PPs of that field and Formulator, that was maybe a weaker N1X than this one was. And she is coming out of a race that a lot of these are exiting, that Caviar Breakfast race from Churchill Downs. I agree with you. She did not run that well in there. The number 2, Sassy Katie, she's probably going to be a big price in this race. She is a horse, another one, making her first start on an all-weather surface here. She's tried the turf, has had a little bit of success on that surface, but mostly she's competed against Indiana bred company at Horseshoe Indy. So this feels like it's a step up in class for her, Mike. I will say this trainer jockey combo, I was watching the first week at Turfway, and they hit the board with some big prices. I think they were second at 64 to 1, one's third at 72 to 1. You'll get prices like that at Turfway, but this filly could be a similar price and will need a career best effort.
Yeah, exactly. I can see her being a big price in this race, and maybe she'll be another one that outruns her odds for these connections. I can see her getting this distance, David. I'm still not convinced that she's good enough.
The number 3 Celtic Charm in a lot of ways feels like the horse to beat in this race because she's relatively lightly raced for a late season 4-year-old filly, and she's generally run pretty well in most of her career starts. You could make the argument she faced some slightly tougher company in a pair of races at Saratoga this summer where she was maybe a little bit disappointed, but one of those was coming off a very long layoff and just a little one-paced in a race that didn't feature a whole lot of pace two back. I thought the last race, Mike, was a real step in the right direction because she never got to save ground in there, was making a nice run through the stretch after getting swung wide at the quarter pole. And when you look at the pedigree, I mean, we could talk about this with a lot of these horses, whether they're bred for synth or not. That's sort of a nebulous topic. But I mean, when just look at the raw stats for her sire, Justify, he wins with 22% of his synth route starters. So that's some confidence that she's going to be just fine on the surface.
Yeah, and the other thing that at least with her, you have a race to go on that was over this track, and she ran really, really well in there with basically a terrible trip in that race. So, I mean, I'm not worried about the surface switch for her. And you sort of alluded to, did she run great in the 2 Saratoga starts? No, but they were tougher fields, and she was just getting started back from a really, really long layoff. It really did feel like she probably moved forward a little bit last time. Listen, you're going to be asked to take her as probably the favorite in here, but I just don't have that many knocks on her.
And Mike, we haven't really mentioned the 1.25 mile distance of this race as a key handicapping factor yet. It does feel like it's really going to work for this filly because when you watch her races, she's finishing well. It just feels like she wants to run all day. The number 4 Union Mist, a horse who's had a lot of chances at this level already. She's just 1 for 16 in her career. Took her a while to even break her maiden. She has mostly competed on the dirt recently. She's another one trying the synthetic for the first time. Not such great stats for her sire, Union Rags, getting over to really anything except dirt. And the trainer, Brendan Walsh, I was looking up some stats for him going from dirt to synthetic. He's just a surprisingly 3 for 57 over the past 5 years. So not the greatest stats around this horse trying something new for the first time.
Well, yeah, it's just a horse who, is going to have to be just a lot better, it seems like, on the all-weather surface than she is on the other 2 surfaces. And the longer I looked at her, the more I looked at her, I just couldn't find any reason to believe that that's going to be the case.
Up next is the number 5, Meg's a Star. She is another one coming out of that race from the 1st of November at Churchill, won by Caviar Breakfast. And I thought she ran okay in there, Mike. She didn't finish quite as well as Celtic Charm did, but she's another one that didn't maybe get an ideal trip. She was sort of pulling in the early stages. She is wont to do that. She's been relatively keen in most of her races with the blinkers on. So over the past 3 starts of her career, they did move her off cover past the half-mile pole, and she sort of made that uncovered 3-wide run around the far turn and looked like that detracted from her finish a little bit because she flattened out at the end. And furthermore, that was her 2nd race in a week. I mean, she was coming back off a troubled trip on October 24th where she was just completely buried in traffic for the entire stretch around Keeneland. I don't know if she was ever going to hit the board or be particularly competitive in that race, but the jockey literally could never ask her for any run that day. And now they're finally taking those blinkers off that seem to make her keen. She does have an all-weather victory going back to her 2-year-old season in Ireland. So I found some things to like about this horse.
Yeah, one of only 2 horses in here who's already won over the all-weather, and that was on debut at Dundalk. She did get ultimately a really good trip in that race. Just sat on the rail. It opened right up for her, but she still, I thought, ran a decent race that day. I'm sort of with you on her form that she got over here. I mean, I just think being so hard to settle early in that most recent start, it probably worked against her. And she did flatten out the end of that race. I'll still just say I'll wait and see what kind of price she is in here, because if she does get bet, I can see her getting bet in this race. And if she does get bet in here, I probably don't want too short a price on her, more than anything else, David, I'm concerned that more distance might not work for this filly.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, pedigree says it's supposed to be fine. Her dam was 3rd in the Alabama. There's a lot of stamina on the bottom side, but I agree. She hasn't necessarily finished off her races like a horse that you're looking to get out to this kind of distance. The number 6, Asian Matriarch, one of a couple horses we're going to talk about in succession that are going to be big prices in this race and just really has to prove herself at this level. She looks a little cheaper on paper, is going first off the claim for a barn that's had some mild success with this move, but she's going to really have to improve, Mike.
Yeah, she is. I mean, I listened to if you want to look for the one positive, maybe the last time she ran on this surface, she got beat a nose, but it was a low level restricted claiming race in slow time.
The number 7, Call Me Tony, another one that's going to be a big price in this race. And she's competed at this level several times over the past year and a half or so, but she's just not really been particularly competitive. And she's one of these, Mike, that just has no early speed whatsoever. It's kind of hard to envision her working out a winning trip.
Don't like her running style at all. She is the other horse in the field who already does have a win over the all-weather surface. It did come here at Turfway Park, but I just don't really like any of her races.
The number 8, El Jury, as I mentioned earlier, with regard to that pace projector, maybe she's the one that goes forward in this race. They're putting blinkers back on after they took them off in the prior start. She had worn blinkers for most of her career prior to that, and she was surprisingly far back in that most recent race, that Caviar Breakfast race, and didn't really produce much of a finish. So maybe putting the blinkers back on, getting her more engaged early, will produce a better effort. Mike, she just kind of feels like a horse that's been a bit of a disappointment. I mean, she cost $1.1 million as a yearling. She's got a big pedigree. And just feels like they're trying a new surface now with a horse that hasn't really lived up to the hype.
Exactly. She's just been super disappointing. So they're just going to try something different with her here and see if it maybe wakes her up a little bit. I would not recommend betting her based on her overall turf form, David. She just doesn't run that well in any of her races. I suspect they'll get more aggressive with her. Again, as you point out, the blinkers go back on. I suspect they'll try to go forward with her this time, and maybe it'll work out. But I just don't see any reason to bet her in here. Unless she's going to be some kind of big price. And they did make her 12-1 on the line.
The number 9, 5 Aside. She's one of the shorter prices on the line, actually pegged as the morning line second choice at 7-2, and kind of a different profile to a lot of these trying synth for the first time, Mike, because she's really been much more of a dirt horse as opposed to a lot of these turf horses trying the synthetic. And she does have a little bit of pedigree to handle this surface. Spun to Run. It's a small sample, but he has 6 for 27 with his synth routers. If you go a little deeper in her female family, her second dam, she actually was a stakes winner on synthetic at Turfway. So there's a little bit of pedigree there. Her dirt form, I can't say that I love it, Mike, but she does strike me as one of these horses that will just stay all day. She's got this big loping stride on her. She's very one-paced. So I think she'll be around at the end, and at least she's got a little tactical speed.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I liked about her as well. Listen, I'll just preface this by saying if she is, the favorite or one of the favorites in here, I won't be using this horse, but, we'll see what happens. The one thing that I do like about her, though, is I think she might be the horse that winds up on the early lead in this race. I guess we'll see how they decide to play it. The race 2 starts back, which personally I thought was a disappointing loss and gives me zero confidence that she'll get more distance. But I'm not sure why they rated her in that race. She could have easily made the lead in there. They conceded to the winner, and then she just could never get by that horse.
The number 10, Pookie, a horse that you and I are very familiar with, her having competed in New York mostly through the summer and fall, and she's kept decent company. We'll take a look at her most recent race where she was no match for the likes of Louise Proctor and the horse who was second here, Pocamuca, who has plenty of back class. Pookie, she's last early at this point in the race. She's going to stay on sort of at one pace to pick up fourth at the end here. She ran better in her start prior to this, but Mike, I also thought she had no excuse to lose that race 2 back because she got a great trip. Seemed like she made a winning move at the 8th pole and then just couldn't really seal the deal. So that kind of left a sour taste in my mouth, and she is one that will be trying synthetic for the first time.
Hell, that's with you. The race 2 back is the one that really holds me back on her. She was supposed to win that day. Kind of felt like she hung at the end of the race there after she got ahead in front. I'm not sure. It makes me wonder about how far she wants to go as well. Listen, she's got races that are going to make her competitive in here. I think she can get the right trip, and maybe she'll handle synthetic. Just another horse, though, David, who's 5-1 on the morning line. That won't be enough to get me interested.
If she wins, I do believe it will be her trainer's Tom Morley's first ever victory over synthetic surface. He is over when you look up his stats in Formulator. The number 11, Fair Plaisir. Like, the best thing I can say about this filly is that when she tried synthetic last winter, she wasn't in as good form as she is now. And it seemed like she ran some of the best races of her career when she got on the Turfway synthetic, albeit she was inconsistent. But she ran a couple of 70-plus buyers, something she had never done before. And since then, she's really gotten a lot better on the dirt. I mean, she finished second in a couple of, starter first level races. And last time out, I mean, she made a big run from way back, got pace to close into. So the race flow certainly worked for her, but that was the best race for her career. And maybe she's getting back on the surface that she really likes in the best form of her career. And I will say her jockey, Walter Rodriguez, had a great first week at Turfway. When you look up stats over the past couple of seasons, he's got a positive ROI riding at this meet over the past 2 years. So you definitely want to pay attention to what he's on.
Yeah, that's true. Here's the question that I had too, because you're right. I mean, there are a couple of good races on this surface last winter. Did she get better this year on dirt because she's a dirt horse. That's kind of how I look at it. I think she might be better on dirt, but I guess we'll find out about that. She did break her maiden on dirt early on, and then for whatever reason, they just went away from that surface. And while she did, she ran okay here a couple of times last round. She also ran some real bad races on this surface. I don't know, man. She's a coin flip for me, but she should be a fair price.
The number 12 Good Game, another one that's going to be a big price in this race. And she's another horse that has never been on the synthetic. She's tried dirt. She's tried turf. She's been more of a turf horse recently, making 3 starts against winners since taking a while to break her maiden. And Mike, just can't say that I love any of her recent races. She's sort of one pace. She'll stay at the end. Maybe the 10 furlongs helps her, but I don't have a whole lot of confidence.
Me either. I mean, I think the one positive thing I could say about her is that I do think she stays. And I think at the end of this race, she will be running on. Whether she'll be within range of the leaders to make a serious impact, that's another question entirely. But I think she'll stay.
And a couple A's in this race, maybe the number 13 Quietly, mildly interesting if she gets in, though do note Luan Machado, who's named on her as well as Celtic Charm, has first call on the Maker trainee, who's in the main body of the field. Mike, let's go to our picks for this Wednesday race of the day at Turfway, and there are a lot of ways you can go. I see a landed on the horse that they did make the morning line favorite, and she is the one that I think you can have the most confidence is going to handle the level and the surface.
Yeah, just a logical horse in the race. Maybe these aren't the kinds of races where you're looking for logical horses, as you've sort of alluded to in the Open, but the bigger prices just didn't really do a lot for me. I'm probably not betting this race anyway, but she is one of the horses. I think she's talented enough. This is the right kind of spot for her. You don't have to really worry about the surface because she's already run really well on it.
Yeah, I've got her in there. I do think she's the horse to beat in this race. I had a little bit of interest in horses like the 9 and 11, 5 aside, and Fair Plaisir. I did put the number 5 Meg's a Star on top. I just thought she's had some subtle trips in her last couple of races. We'll see if she's good enough. We'll see if she's going to improve on the synthetic, but I thought she'd at least be a fair enough price, maybe as the 4th or 5th choice in this race if I get lucky. So 5, 3, 11, 9 for me, and 3, 1, 10, 12 for Mike in the DRF Wednesday race of the day, race 8 at Turfway. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.